My parents branded me their backup son. I overheard them confess they kept me for money, so I cut them off, reclaimed Grandpa's land, and exposed their greed. You ever just sit back and realize your whole family treated you like a backup plan they never even wanted? Yeah, that's basically how I grew up. I'm 31, male, the older brother, but somehow my younger brother Aaron has always been the golden child. I mean, the kid could literally set the living room on fire, and my parents would ask me why I left the matches out. It's been like that since we were kids. They used to call Aaron, 28, male, a little genius just because he could plug in the DVD player on his own. Meanwhile, I was the one cooking boxed mac and cheese by age 9 while our parents were out doing God knows what. But none of that mattered to them. Aaron had potential. I was just there. Our mom, Nancy, is that kind of woman who talks like everything's fine but drips venom in every sentence. She'd say things like, Aaron just needs more space to grow, and you're older. You should understand better. Our dad, Stan, wasn't any better. He treated Aaron like the second coming of Steve Jobs and looked at me like I was a broken tire jack. It got worse as we got older. When I turned 17, I got a job at a local repair shop, changing oil, replacing brakes, basic stuff. I was just trying to stack some money, maybe help out a little. And what do? They started charging me $400 a month in rent. That's right, 17, still in high school, paying rent to live in the house I grew up in. Fast forward a year, Aaron turns 16 and crashes his car. Guess who pays to fix it? Not him, not our parents, me. And they acted like it was normal. Like, well, you have a job and Aaron's still trying to find himself. Find himself? Bro was literally skipping class to vape behind the school and cheat off his girlfriend's homework. And they wonder why I moved out the second I legally could. But here's the thing, no matter how bad it got, I still helped them. When Dad lost his job for the third time, which wasn't even a surprise at that point, I helped cover their electric bills. I sent money every month when their mortgage started falling behind. I even bought Aaron a used laptop when he said he needed it for a remote internship that turned out to be some MLM crypto scam. I didn't do it because they deserved it. I did it mostly for my mom. I kept thinking that if I helped enough, they'd finally see I was worth something. But people like that don't change. They just see you as a faucet, and the second it stops dripping, they start screaming. My wife Sarah kept telling me it wasn't right. She's a third-grade teacher, the sweetest person I know, tough when she needs to be, but always fair. Every time we'd visit my parents, my mom would hit her with one of those fake smile lines like, "So are you still just teaching, or must be nice to have summers off?" Real condescending crap, always said in that polite voice that makes it hard to call out without sounding crazy. Sarah never complained, though. She just took it from me. Then there's Max, our dog, a rescue. Big old mutt with one floppy ear and a crooked tail. He's basically my second kid. Been with us since before our daughter Olivia was born. That dog sat with me through late-night shifts, road trips, everything, and my parents hated him. They'd always say things like, "You care more about that animal than your own blood." Funny, Max never asked me for rent money or called my wife useless. Now, here's where things went from just crappy family dynamics to straight-up betrayal. Last year, during some random family dinner, I went to the kitchen to grab water for Sarah and me. Olivia was in the living room with Max watching cartoons. I wasn't even trying to eavesdrop, but I stopped in the hallway when I heard my name. Dad was saying, "He acts like he's some big man because he sends us a couple $100. Then Mom added, "It's disgusting. He's a failure and he doesn't even see it. If Aaron had that kind of money, he'd use it properly." Then Aaron, of course, had to throw in his 2 cents. Honestly, if he wasn't paying the bills, I wouldn't even bother talking to him. I stood there staring at the hallway tiles like they were about to crack. I didn't move. I didn't say anything. I just listened as they went on about how they were just using me to stay afloat, and that I'd always be the backup, word for word, like I wasn't their son, like I was just an ATM they could insult when the screen turned off. I walked back in, set the water down, and told Sarah we were leaving. She knew something was up. I didn't say anything until we got in the car and Max was loaded up with Olivia in the back seat. Then I told her everything. She didn't say "I told you so." She just said, "Good, now let's be done with them." And I was. No more money, no more calls. I blocked every one of them, even Aaron. Changed my number. Told my job I wasn't available to do repairs on weekends anymore so I could spend time with my actual family, the ones who mattered. Max got extra treats that night. By the way, I thought cutting them off would make me feel guilty, but it didn't. It felt like standing up straight for the first time in 31 years, like finally letting someone else carry their own dead weight. But they didn't take it well. And they didn't go quietly either. After I cut them off, I figured that would be the end of it. Like, All right, they'll be mad, talk trash for a while, then eventually move on. Wrong. Cutting off their free ride just lit a fuse I didn't even know existed. They didn't come back with apologies, they came back swinging. I started getting weird texts from numbers I didn't know. Your mother's crying herself to sleep and you abandoned your family for a dog. I blocked them one by one. Then came the Facebook messages from extended family. Aunt Lisa, Uncle Brian, even some cousin I hadn't talked to since we were 10, all saying stuff like, "You need to make things right," or "Your dad always tried his best, you're being selfish," all parroting the same lines like they were reading from a group script. I found out later that my mom had been calling everyone in the family, telling them I'd lost it and was having some kind of mental breakdown. She left out the part where they openly admitted to using me for years. But the biggest shift came when my grandpa's name started getting tossed around. Grandpa Joe, my mom's dad, wasn't rich, but he owned some land. Big open property outside of town, probably worth low six figures if sold. When I was a kid, he used to take me fishing there. He taught me how to change oil in his truck, how to patch drywall, even how to sharpen a mower blade. He was old school and quiet, but he always respected people who worked hard and didn't complain. When I stopped talking to my parents, I still called Grandpa every couple of weeks, just checking in, asking if he needed anything. He always said the same thing: "I'm proud of you, kid." He knew how my parents were. He'd seen it for years. He just never stepped in because, in his words, he wanted to see if they'd wake up on their own. Spoiler, they didn't. Anyway, one day he mentioned he was putting together a will. Nothing dramatic, just said he wanted to make sure everything went where it was supposed to. I didn't think much of it. I wasn't expecting anything. I figured he'd split it all evenly between his kids and grandkids, or maybe just sell the land and downsize. But a month later, things got weird. Aaron, my lovely brother, who never lifted a finger unless it was for himself, started showing up at Grandpa's place regularly, bringing him groceries, fixing stuff around the house. I knew something was off immediately. Aaron doesn't fix anything. The guy once called me because he didn't know how to restart the Wi-Fi router, but now he was playing Handyman of the Year. Turns out Aaron had found out about the will. My parents must have heard something and sent him in like a scout to butter Grandpa up, get in his good graces, and maybe manipulate the will in their favor. That's when I started watching things a little closer. Aaron's always been a snake, but for some reason people never seem to catch on. At work, he had a desk job at some logistics company, nothing fancy. His title sounded more impressive than it actually was, regional compliance specialist or something like that, but really, all he did was fill out spreadsheets and send reports. The thing is, he'd been doing shady stuff there for years without getting caught. He'd copy other people's work, fudge numbers to hit his KPIs, even submitted expense reports for client lunches that were just him and his girlfriend ordering takeout. I only knew all this because the dumbass used to brag about it in the old family group chat. He'd say stuff like, "Bro, my manager is so dumb. I literally submitted the same report from last month, just changed the dates, and no one questioned it. He lived on shortcuts." Always did. And somehow it always worked out for him. He'd fail upwards, talk his way out of issues, charm the higher-ups just enough to avoid real accountability. Meanwhile, if I showed up 5 minutes late for a delivery, my pay got docked. That was the difference. He had a family making excuses for him and bosses who never looked too close. I had bills and reality. Anyway, back to Grandpa. One day I get a call from him. He's confused, quiet. Says he got a call from someone claiming to be a health representative, asking about his memory, whether he'd been forgetting things, misplacing items, feeling overwhelmed managing property. I told him that sounded shady and asked for the number. Turns out it wasn't some random checkup. It had been arranged. A week later, I found out my parents tried to claim Grandpa was mentally declining, that he wasn't fit to handle his own estate. They were working on submitting fake documents to the court suggesting he had early signs of Alzheimer's. They even had a bogus doctor's note. Probably paid someone or forged it themselves. That's when something in me flipped. I wasn't just going to walk away anymore. They wanted to play dirty? Cool. I know things too. I had messages, screenshots, receipts. First, I helped Grandpa contact a lawyer. We locked his estate down properly, got real evaluations done, and made sure any court filings on his behalf would trigger an alert. He even recorded a video saying he was fully competent and understood exactly what his will said. That alone nuked any chance they had. But I wasn't done. Aaron's job? Yeah. I dug up every single thing he ever bragged about. Fake expense reports, copy-pasted audits, even the time he left sensitive files open on a public terminal at FedEx. I gathered it all and sent it in an anonymous package to his HR department with a little note. Might want to audit your golden boy. 2 weeks later, he was fired. No references, no severance, no dignity. My parents were furious. They tried calling again, this time screaming voicemails instead of guilt-tripping ones. I saved them all. You never know. The best part? Grandpa updated the will and left everything to me and his great-granddaughter Olivia. Aaron's name was scratched out completely, not even a penny. That's when the begging started. So Aaron got fired. Not laid off, not downsized. Fired. Full-on escorted out of the building kind of fired. No handshake, no we'll be in touch, just a walk of shame through the lobby and a security guy handing him a sad little cardboard box with his coffee mug and desk junk in it. It took 2 days before my mom called me. She didn't ask how I was, didn't ask how Olivia was doing. She went straight into rage mode. This is your fault. You've ruined your brother's future. I hung up. Then she started texting Sarah. That didn't go the way she planned either. Sarah doesn't play polite. She's dealt with bratty third graders for 10 years and knows how to handle manipulators like a pro. She responded once. Just one line. Stop contacting me. We protect our peace now. Blocked. But the real storm didn't start until a week later, when my parents showed up at Grandpa's lawyer's office during a routine check-in. They tried to present the forged medical documents again, even after everything, claiming Grandpa had no idea what he was doing, that his will had been influenced by outsiders, me, and that he was not of sound mind. Only this time they walked straight into a legal buzzsaw. Grandpa had already filed a preventative notice with the county clerk's office. Basically, don't touch my stuff unless I'm legally ruled in competent order. He also had that recorded video where he literally held up a newspaper, said the date out loud, and explained every line of his will calmly and clearly with the lawyer sitting next to him. Once the judge saw the video and compared it with the garbage report my parents submitted, it was game over. Forgery is a serious thing, especially when it involves manipulating someone's estate. Turns out my uncle, Mom's younger brother, had a friend in the court system. He tipped us off that actual charges might be coming. Fraud, elder abuse, conspiracy to defraud an estate, the works. And the best part? They did it all to themselves. I didn't even have to push. I just made sure the truth was waiting for them at every corner. Aaron was spiraling hard. Without his job, his fancy apartment was too expensive, so he moved back in with our parents. From what I heard, he spent most of his time gaming and rage tweeting about how family betrayed him. Classic victim mindset, always someone else's fault. My parents were quietly drowning. The money I used to send was gone. Their mortgage was 3 months behind, car payments late, utilities bouncing. They even got their internet shut off, which honestly made me laugh a little too hard. Aunt Lisa sent me a voice note saying, Mom cried for 2 hours the night the internet cut out, blaming me for ruining the family's reputation. Like I was the one who faked medical reports and tried to rob my dying grandfather. They still didn't get it. Meanwhile, Sarah, Olivia, Max, and I were doing all right. Not rich, not flashy, but solid, stable. I'd picked up a few extra contracts, started saving to buy a second-hand truck so I could scale up. Sarah was tutoring after school for side cash. Olivia had just gotten Student of the Month. Max was healthy, and I was sleeping better. The house felt peaceful. For the first time in years, I actually felt proud of my life. Then the call came. It was late. I was watching some dumb show half asleep on the couch when the phone rang. It was my mom. I stared at it for a long second before answering. No idea why I picked up, honestly. Dad had a stroke, she said, voice flat. No hello, no lead-in. He's in the ICU. She said it like it was my job to fix it, like that information should have sent me into action. But I didn't move. I didn't even blink. I just sat there, listening. Then she added, You should come. He's asking for you. That part did hit different, not because I felt guilt, but because why? After everything, after calling me a failure, mocking my wife, using my money like a piggy bank, and tossing me aside like garbage, now he suddenly wanted me there? I told her I'd think about it and hung up. Sarah walked in a few minutes later, saw my face, and I told her what happened. She didn't push, she just sat next to me, rested her head on my shoulder, and said, You don't owe them anything. She was right. So I didn't go. A few days later, they showed up. Yep, outside my place. I don't know how they got the address. Maybe a cousin, maybe they followed me once. Either way, there they were, Mom and Aaron standing at the gate looking desperate, faces tired and washed out. We just want to talk, she said when I opened the front door. I didn't even step outside, then say it from there. She tried the guilt angle again, said Dad was recovering but weak, that he might not have much time, that he kept mumbling my name. Then she asked if I'd consider helping with some of the medical bills. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. You mean like the way you helped Grandpa? I asked. That shut her up. Aaron, though, still had the nerve. He stepped forward and said, "You're really going to do this after everything we've done for you?" I swear to God I almost lost it. But I didn't. I stayed calm, looked him dead in the eyes and said, "You remember what you said that night at dinner? That you only tolerated me because I paid your bills? Good news. You don't have to tolerate me anymore." I closed the door in their faces. No yelling, no big dramatic speech, just silence. You'd think after everything, the fake documents, the begging, the screaming at my front door, they'd finally get the message. But people like my parents don't let go. They don't accept boundaries. They see your silence as disrespect, your peace as rebellion, and they take it personally, especially when they're broke and desperate. After that last confrontation, things went quiet for about a month. No calls, no texts, no mystery relatives trying to mediate. For a second, I let my guard down. Business was picking up. I'd managed to lease another used semi-truck, old, loud, but dependable, and landed a regular freight gig running between Chicago and Indiana twice a week. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady money, enough to finally stash some savings away. Sarah and I even started talking about taking Olivia to see the ocean for the first time that summer. We looked at little cabins in Tennessee, something simple, just the three of us and Max in the back seat. It felt like we were finally catching a break. Then one morning I walked out to the gravel lot I rented behind a gas station and my truck was trashed. And I don't mean keyed or tagged. I mean destroyed. Windshield smashed in, every mirror busted clean off, tires slashed, front bumper hanging like it got into a fight with a train, spray painted across the side in big red letters, "Family Traitor." I stood there frozen, staring at it like my brain couldn't register what I was seeing. This truck wasn't just metal and wheels to me, it was how I fed my family. It was freedom, and someone tried to take that away. No cameras, no witnesses. The lot was in a dead zone. I filed a police report. They said they'd look into it, which basically meant nothing would happen. I knew who did it. You know who did it. But without proof, it was just words. When I walked around to the passenger side, I found the glove box forced open. They didn't steal anything. They just left a note written in Sharpie on the back of a Walgreens receipt. "Still think you're better than us?" Aaron's handwriting. I'd know it anywhere. Sloppy, barely legible, like he never grew out of middle school. I kept that note. Didn't hand it to the cops. Didn't even tell Sarah about it right away. I just took a deep breath and walked back inside. I was done being polite. I was done waiting for them to self-destruct. Now I was going to bury them legally and make sure they never came near me again. First, I got security cameras installed everywhere, house, office, truck lot, dash cams, everything. Then I went back to the lawyer handling Grandpa's estate and filed a restraining order against my parents and Aaron. I attached all the documentation, voicemails, texts, social media messages, photos of the truck. I kept the note for myself. The lawyer also helped file a civil claim for property damage and loss of income. I didn't even care about the money. I just wanted it on paper. A paper trail their next victim or future employer could find. While that was processing, I worked off my backup truck. Slower, older, no sleeper cab, so I had to rent cheap motels on long routes, but I made it work. Max rode shotgun most days. Sarah packed extra sandwiches. Olivia left little drawings in the glove box. I kept moving. What pissed me off the most wasn't even the damage. It was the message, that smug little question, "Still think you're better than us?" I never thought I was better. I thought I was free, and that's what they couldn't handle. My success wasn't flashy. I wasn't rich or famous, but I didn't need them anymore. That's what drove them mad, because people like that need someone under them, someone they can look down on, control, and humiliate when their own lives fall apart. I took that away. When the court date came, they didn't even show up. My lawyer said it was probably because they knew they couldn't afford the risk. Losing would put a judgment on their record and make everything harder. The judge approved the restraining order, 6 months, renewable, and I renewed it twice. At that point, they were basically ghosts. Word got around town. Aunt Lisa called one night and told me my parents were ashamed to show their faces anymore. They'd become a punchline. Whispers at church, awkward glances at the grocery store. Even their old friends started backing away. Apparently, someone in their friend group had a kid who worked in HR at Aaron's old company and found out exactly why he got fired. Word spreads fast when your whole life is built on image. Good. They earned every bit of it. Meanwhile, I kept building. By the end of the year, I'd saved enough to buy my own office trailer, a small used one from a retiring contractor. I plopped it down behind the lot, hooked up power, and turned it into a little dispatch center. Sarah helped design the inside. Olivia named it Base Truck. The name stuck. Max got a little bed in the corner. We hung a whiteboard, some shelves, even a mini fridge. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. One night, as I was locking up, Sarah pulled into the lot with Olivia in the back seat. They'd brought takeout. We sat on the steps eating fries, watching the sun go down, and I realized something. They hadn't just damaged a truck. They tried to destroy my life, but all they did was make me build a better one. A few months after the truck incident, things finally started feeling solid. I wasn't rich, but I was stable. The restraining order did its job. No more surprises, no more smashed windshields, just peace, boring, quiet, reliable peace. The kind that doesn't sound like much until you've lived years without it. Then I got a call from Grandpa. He was calm, like always, told me to stop by that weekend, said he wanted to finalize everything with the lawyer and make it official. I already knew what he meant, but I didn't push. With Grandpa, when he was ready to talk, he talked. So I drove out Saturday morning. Sarah and Olivia came too. Grandpa always had a soft spot for Olivia. He'd saved every drawing she ever gave him and kept them framed in his hallway like museum pieces. She gave him a new one that day, a picture of us standing in front of a big red truck covered in hearts. He stuck it on the fridge right next to our wedding photo. Then we sat down with the lawyer. Grandpa pulled out a folder with everything in it: deed transfer, revised will, letter to the court, notarized statement explaining why he made the changes. He wasn't messing around. "I've seen what entitlement looks like," he said. "I'm not letting it ruin this land." He gave half the remaining property to Uncle Ray, his only brother still alive, and the other half to me. No loopholes, no unless he apologizes nonsense, no one else's name appeared anywhere. Then he handed me a second folder. Inside was a check, 6 figures. "I sold the hunting cabin," he said. "Figured you'd put it to better use." I didn't even know what to say. That cabin had been in the family for decades, but he just looked at me and said, "That place held memories for people who stopped caring. It's time for it to hold value for someone who does." I didn't cry. I'm not a big crier, but something inside me cracked a little. The kind of crack that makes you feel seen. Like someone finally acknowledged the years you spent holding everything together while being told you were nothing. That money didn't go toward a flashy car or a big house. I used it to lease 2 more trucks and hire 3 full-time drivers. Guys like me, overlooked and underpaid by their last companies. I paid them fair, gave them weekends off, even built a little break room in the corner of the new warehouse we rented. Nothing fancy, just a microwave, coffee pot, folding chairs, but it was ours. Business boomed. Word got around that we were reliable, fast, and honest. Soon we had contracts running up to Minnesota and down to Kentucky. I had to hire a dispatcher just to keep up. Every time I pulled into the lot and saw the fleet with Base Truck lit up at night, I'd think, this is what I built without them. And apparently, that's what drove them insane, because somehow they found out. I don't know if it was a cousin stalking my LinkedIn or someone in town running their mouth, but the messages started again. "Must be nice with Grandpa's money. You're stealing what belongs to our family. Don't forget who raised you." Funny, I never forgot. I just stopped pretending they did a good job. The worst was when Mom tried the health card again, called me sobbing about how Dad's recovery was going backwards, how he needed new medication they couldn't afford, how they'd lose the house and Aaron had nowhere else to go. That was supposed to make me care. I told her flat out, "You raised a man who cheats, lies, and destroys things he didn't earn. That's not my problem anymore." She snapped, went full rage mode, called me every name in the book, said I was cold and heartless, that Grandpa would be ashamed if he knew what I'd become. Too bad Grandpa was sitting right next to me. I'd answered on speaker in his living room. He leaned back, sipping his tea, and muttered, "She never did know when to shut up." I think that was the last time I ever spoke to her. 2 weeks later, I found out they tried one final move, hired some sleazy lawyer to challenge the will, claiming Grandpa had been coerced, that I'd manipulated him, that he was too old to make legal decisions. They dug up old health records, blurry statements from distant relatives, even tried to drag Uncle Ray into it. He told them to go to hell. Their biggest piece of evidence? A photo of me helping Grandpa up the stairs at the courthouse. You know, doing what decent people do when someone is 84 with a bum knee. The judge dismissed the case in under 10 minutes. Grandpa's lawyer didn't even break a sweat. The court fined them for filing a frivolous suit and wasting everyone's time. I heard they had to take out a loan to cover it. Now they were truly sinking. The house got auctioned off after they defaulted. I didn't buy it, not because I couldn't, but because I didn't want the headache. Let someone else gut it and start over. Aaron bounced around a few jobs, none of them stuck. Last I heard, he was living with some girl who has no idea who he really is, still telling people I stole from Grandpa and framed him at work. Funny how that story keeps changing. My parents moved into a small apartment in the bad part of town, scraping by on whatever retirement funds they hadn't already burned through. They keep telling people I abandoned them. And they're not wrong. It should have ended there. With the court case, the house gone, the will locked down, and me finally free. But people like my father don't go down with quiet dignity. He spent his whole life puffing his chest, mocking others, acting like the world owed him something just for existing. When it all crumbled, he needed a final performance. I got the call on a Tuesday. It was Aaron. First time I'd heard his voice in months. "Dad had another stroke," he said. No hello, just straight into it. "It's worse this time. They don't know if he's going to make it." I didn't say anything. He kept going. "He's asking for you, man. He keeps saying your name over and over. Just come see him. He doesn't have anyone left, just Mom and me, and she's not doing great either. Please, he just wants to see his son." I almost laughed. He didn't want to see his son. He wanted to see his last shot at a payout. I just said, "Let me think about it," and hung up. I told Sarah that night while we were making dinner. Olivia was at the table drawing a picture of Max wearing a superhero cape. It should have been a peaceful moment. Sarah looked at me and asked, "You're not really thinking about going, are you?" "I don't know," I said. "I guess I just want to hear him say it. Admit what he did." She shook her head slowly. "He won't. And you know that." I did know, but some small, stupid part of me thought maybe, just maybe, he'd surprise me for once. I drove to the hospital the next day and sat in the parking lot for 40 minutes, never went in. Instead, I walked across the street to a gas station, bought a bottle of water, and stood outside watching normal people go about their lives. Nurses grabbing snacks, a teenager pumping gas, an old guy walking his dog, people not tangled up in years of fake love, backhanded compliments, and lies that smell like cheap cologne and kitchen table guilt trips. Then I went home. 2 days later, they showed up again. No warning, no call, just like always. I opened the door, and there they were, Mom and Aaron, standing on my porch like they were auditioning for a pity documentary. Mom's face was drawn, like she hadn't slept. Aaron looked like someone trying way too hard to look broken. "You didn't come," she said, voice flat and cold. "No," I said. "I didn't." "He was crying for you," she said, hand on her chest like that was supposed to mean something to me. I didn't flinch. I cried too. "Just didn't see you at my door back then." She swallowed hard. I could tell she had more loaded. Some guilt trip, a Bible verse, another round of, "He's still your father." But Aaron cut in first. "Look, we know things got messed up, but we're still family." I actually smiled at that. "You know what day it is today?" I asked. They looked confused. Mom tilted her head slightly. Aaron glanced at his phone like it was a trick question. "Today is my birthday," I said. "December 23rd. You lived with me for 18 years. I paid rent with my own job since I was 17. I covered your bills, and neither of you know when I was born." That shut them up real quick. I stepped out, closed the door behind me, and leaned on the railing. That was the last time I ever saw them.